What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Coachable Podcast. I'm in studio with one of my best friends in the whole world. Avery Valentine is back for her third appearance on this show. And what is soon to be a multiple appearance back to back weeks. We are announcing today live on this show, a very exciting announcement about a new collaboration that you and I are working on. And it's time that my audience get to know you a little bit more because they're going to see you a little bit more often. We are announcing a new mini series that we're going to be rolling out over the next 6 or so weeks on this show, all about a new program that Avery and I are working on called WomanISHer, WomanISHer. We're reclaiming that identity, that vocabulary and that word womanizer. This is the time now more than ever. There has been a rise of the feminine that's been happening, but we're getting on the train on the Coachable Podcast and we're going to ride this wave. And this conversation today and the continuing conversations that are going to be happening over the course of the next 6 weeks and inside the WomanISHer program, which we'll tell you more about, is really focused on women's empowerment, embodiment, eroticism, and self-expression. And those are really the topics that I can't think of a better person to help me kind of craft these conversations and these trainings and experiments of really helping women get to know themselves on such a deeper level, understand more about their sensuality, sexuality, personal self-expression, how to own their power, how to own their desire, ask for what they want. Like, we're going to be getting into all of it. So stay tuned and welcome to the show, Avery Valentine.
Woo! I'm so excited to be here and really excited not only about this whole program, but getting to collaborate with you in this because I feel like it's such a beautiful balance with you. Like, even getting to hear a bit more of your story last night at your breath work, you know, hearing how you went to the extreme of numbing the emotion and productivity versus my opposite was I came from such a religious, oppressive background that I went to straight hedonism. And so I love the polarities of our experience that we bring together. And I feel like it really encapsulates so much of being a woman and both of us coming on that journey to take these extremes and finding our center and that true embodiment of our own magic and empowerment and liberation and erotic energy. So I'm so excited because there's nobody better I could think of who would bring such a beautiful spectrum with me to this program and training to be able to impact more women than I could ever do on my own, you know? So I'm so grateful and I'm so excited for this.
We're definitely two different flavors, you guys. And one of the things that we'll say, I like to say, like in my programs, in my events, I said it last night at Breathwork, I was like, you can play mild, medium, or spicy. You know what I mean? You get to go as deep as you want to go, but we're going to have these real ass conversations. Like, there's no topic off limits because what we want to do is normalize the taboo. Like, it's 2025. It's time that we kind of get out of the closet and especially as women start empowering each other to have open conversations around our, you know, the topics that make us women. And for me, at least personally, like, we have such different backgrounds and we're coming from a lot of different experiences. And I think that's what is going to be interesting for this series because, like, I was your prototypical good girl. Like, look at me right now. I was just saying before we recorded, like, I look like a housewife with three kids that lives in the suburbs. Like, I just got home from driving my kids to school, and Avery's like this hot bratty girl that's gonna whip you into the shape, you know. But the beautiful thing about being a woman and being a human being is we're so multi-dimensional and so complex and diverse and different, but we are going to bring those two different sides to these conversations. And I would love for you to remind people kind of just about who you be in the world, because your background is has kind of two sides to it. The world of the unconscious, before you got into the work that you do around sacred sexuality and tantra and in women's embodiment and so many other things through shamanism and mindfulness practices. But there was a whole nother side to you that also gives you a lens that's very unique that you look through when you see the world and you see the work of feminine empowerment. Can you tell people a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's funny because I very briefly, I didn't go as dedicated as you to the good girl thing. I tried it briefly when I turned 18.
I was so good girl. I was boring. I was so boring.
So much power though too that she's created.
Maybe we'll have a whole episode about are you a freak or are you a prude and what does that say about you?
I like that a lot.
Okay.
So yeah, I got married really young. I was a virgin till marriage. Whew. So we did that.
But let me get married as soon as possible.
Basically, yeah. I thought it was, the liberation from the really religious confines of my family, only to get into then a very abusive marriage. So I went to college, and college was where I started seeing the world. And very quickly got out of the marriage, left college, and got into sex work, became a cam girl. And this is back before OnlyFans. So we still lied about this. We didn't tell anybody what we did. It was very on the down low, hush hush. There was still a lot of stigma and shame. It wasn't as culturally accepted. And I dove deep into it. My best friend at the time was one of the top girls. By the age of 21, had earned $500,000, hence the allure to get into that industry for me. And just a deep dive into very unconscious underworld. And with that, of course, all of the typical unconscious things, drinking, partying. But I also got to experience parts of humanity and the world that I think so many people have curiosity about, but are too scared to ever step into that realm.
To even admit.
Yeah. It's like, ooh, don't.
Maybe we'll have a conversation with our girlfriend about it in the privacy of
And even then, it's like, you're going to be selective which girlfriend.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you're like, it's not going to be your wife who, like your girlfriend who's like been married for 5 years and like goes to church every Sunday. Yeah. No, you're going to tell a friend like me.
Yeah.
So
Avery knows all of my deepest, darkest secrets and fantasies because she is my friend that I feel safe enough to tell all of that to.
Bring them all to me, darling. Yeah. And so, I was deep in that world. And it was funny enough, when I moved to Vegas, everyone was like, oh my gosh, why is she moving to? I was deep in the world at that point, in a very unhealthy way. And so, when I moved here, everyone was terrified. They're like, you're moving to where you can drink and party nonstop. There's so many adult industry people there. Yeah. I originally was actually going to be moving in with a porn star out here, like temporarily. And universe would have it that it all fell through. Ended up having to move in on my own, which was a gift. And having that space to myself, I became aware how much I was just in the industry out of trauma and out of survival, and like, how can I profit off basically make money the easiest way possible for me, which was sell my body for money. It took no thought, no effort. Of course, there's a business side to it. I don't want to diminish that. To be successful, you do have to have a business mind. Yeah. I was not successful by really. I mean, like, I did good, but I never treated it like a business. I treated it like a piggy bank, and I like play, you know, I did whatever I wanted when I wanted. And so when I moved to Vegas, there was this moment of, this isn't sustainable. This isn't who I am. It felt like I was copping out, you know, and thankfully.
Ooh, interesting.
The copping out.
Yeah. That's like, I'm doing the least, I'm putting the least effort towards my life. Yeah. Like, it's like, what am I actually trying at?
And I didn't earn my looks, you know? And so it's shallow. There's a superficiality to it. And if I didn't earn my looks, but I'm profiting off of my looks and my sexuality, and also I wasn't profiting off my sexuality in a rooted, erotic way for me. It was a very superficial caricature of sexuality. You know, it was for the male gaze, as they would say. And so, there was this moment, it just felt hollow. I felt hollow. And I, growing up, I'd always been the honor roll kid. I was always the smart kid. And so I was like, there's so much that just feels missing in my life that I haven't earned this. And also, looks aren't sustainable. Someday I'm gonna be an old. I'm already
box ticket, baby.
Someday Okay. And thankfully at that point, I had just started becoming friends with people who were in this world, shout out to Avery Paul. He was best friend. Tori knows him as well. Amazing guy. And he had just began his journey as a coach. So he was bringing me all this Tony Robbins, all this coaching. And it really was this unfolding of really getting rid of that whole identity as a sex worker. And I went deep, as I've shared before, into like NLP, the Tony world. And then I went into embodiment and the shamanic, all these things. And it wasn't until I found Tantra that I felt like I got to have that completion of coming home. And so from that place, for me, that embodiment has been, can I take all those amazing, kinky, deviant experiences and bring them to consciousness and now use them from this conscious place for healing and liberation, not only for myself, but for others, because even when I reflect on those experiences, while they were unconscious, they were some of the juiciest, most fun, liberating experiences where I've been in orgies. I've been, you think of it, I've probably been around it. I've probably participated in it. And so it's this beautiful full circle now of how can I bring consciousness to these spaces from like this sober, grounded, rooted, like building that
intentional space.
Building the pleasure, that eros in ourselves, and keeping that element of play and also that animalistic part of self. I really am passionate about play and that animal getting to get incorporated into everything.
Totally. I love this. And thank you for sharing that, because that perspective and you living in both worlds is so valuable when it comes to the conversations and the teaching and the program that we're creating, because the women that listen to the show and that will be part of this program will have all varying different degrees and backgrounds. And like my background as growing up in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, like in the Bible Belt, like I thought I was going to be the 23-year-old, like graduating college and like getting married and having kids. Like that's what I thought my life was going to be. And even though that's not what it turned out to be, and I am so deeply grateful for what my life is today, there was so much ingrained conditioning around what was appropriate when it came to my pleasure, my self-expression, the way I dressed, who I dated, what our sex life was like. And what I've realized and why I think this is so important on some level is that most women have we learn at school about, we learn through porn, we learn through these very, conversations with our friends. And for a lot of women, these are conversations that they haven't had at all. Yeah. And there's a lot of question marks about, what do I like? What do I not like? I've never even allowed myself to ask that question because I have these ideas of what it's supposed to be based on my religion or the way I grew up. And I was that girl that was always so afraid to make a mistake. I was always so afraid to be punished or to get in trouble. And God forbid, God would send me to hell, Yeah. Literally. It's
like the most extreme punishment that like keeps you in that narrow path.
Let me be as safe as possible, which meant as small as possible when it came to my relationship to my own body. And I remember for me personally, like I was very like sexually curious from a really, really young age, like extremely young. Yeah. Like I started masturbating when I was like too young. Like I don't even like so inappropriate. Y'all like the things you're going to hear. Literally I would go out on the playground and like there would be a pole on our swing set and I would like shimmy up it. And I was like, oh my God, this feels good. Yeah. It was wild. Yeah. But all that to say, a lot of what I was curious about and wanted to experiment with personally, like I did not have, my mom was so shut down sexually. I had nobody to talk to about it. My sister didn't talk about it. And especially with the way we grew up, it was like one of those things this is private and that's for marriage. And even then you don't talk about it. Right.
Yeah.
And that to me, I've realized now looking back on my life, looking back on my parents' relationship, looking back on the relationships of other people that I was witnessing, the shadow aspect of what happens when we aren't honest and open about these things. I saw, I was involved in dynamics at church where the pastors were doing things they shouldn't do, so I come from a dogmatic kind of lens and I've done a lot of work to start to peel back those layers. And it's taken me a decade plus 15 years to start to do that. And I started in little bits and pieces, but these are the types of conversations I want to start to open the door to. And I want women to know that it is safe, not just safe, but I want this to be the new standard. You know what I mean? Because in order for us to be truly liberated, independent, like we talk about being independent woman. What does that mean in 2024 or 2025? To me, that means being empowered, being authentic, being true to yourself, and having a level of self-sovereignty.
I think that's that piece of the self-sourcing.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't need any, and it's a fine line because we don't want hyper independence either.
Exactly.
And I think it's that place though of like, I don't need somebody or something outside me to turn me on in life. I can turn myself on because I know who I am, what I want, and what I need. And, I want to circle back to what you shared about your history because it's so funny how based off our upbringings, the choices we make. Because I had the similar Southern Baptist, very dogma, all of that.
And you went in a completely different direction.
I was like, and it was the same. I was shamed. Like my mom thought I had sex way before I did. She would shame me for everything. Like to the point I found out as an adult, my mother had a baby monitor in my room and would tell me that God told her every time she knew I did bad things. Yeah. Did not find out until I was 24.
Mom.
Boundaries. So boundaries was a big lesson for me growing up. And so it's just funny though how you took that as like you were like, yes, this is what was ingrained in me. This is what I was taught, and now I'm gonna go obey into the world. Versus I went I was just like,
I'm gonna rebel.
Screw what you guys taught me. Like I'm gonna do the most extreme opposite. And
fascinating.
So it's so interesting. And then for me, it's been the coming back to the center, much like you.
And for me, it's been the opening and the expression and the exploring of all the curiosities that I never did. But doing it from a conscious place and an intentional place. And what I am so excited about is that, since our friendship started to develop, a year ago. It's only been a year, which is crazy. I've gotten to experience some of your deep level of profound space holding and expertise and how for me, it's allowed me to continue to deepen in the knowing that it is safe. Yeah. That you've given me a reference point that I can own my full expression and that I don't have to hide that. You're talking about my upbringing and what I was taught. And it wasn't even that I was really taught this by my parents. It's what I wasn't taught. And it's what there was a lack of conversation around. And so because it wasn't discussed, I just assumed I couldn't talk about it with anyone. And so over the next, 6 weeks, and definitely as we get into the WomanISHer program, which we're launching and is going to be opening starting February 2025, early bird enrollment is going to begin in December. So just a couple days away, and we're going to give you all the information about that coming up. So make sure that you're following me, the Tori Gordon, on Instagram, and Avery Valentine, because we're going to be posting all about the program, what's to come. I do want to give you guys just a sneak peek of the curriculum and what we're going to be be working on over the course of 4 months together. So let me pull that up real quick. And if you have any other thoughts based on what I shared while I do that, feel free.
Yeah, I think what I'm most excited about is really getting to witness the women who enter this container with us, going from what I've noticed, and you can expand upon this, is like women who, it's almost like they've lost their radiance. As a woman, it's, I'm going to grind. I'm going to do what I'm told. I'm going to show up. And it's almost like this, like, and it sounds bad, but it's needy, grabby energy. It's like, fulfill me, make me happy, make me horny, make me loved, make me whatever it is. And really getting to witness that blossoming into whatever that looks like for them, of that self-sourcing, this energy, this power, this radiance from within, and understanding when you come from that place, nobody can take it away from you.
Yeah.
And so I'm just so excited to get to witness that journey.
I'm excited for those women. I'm also excited for the women that are coming in that are shut down.
Yeah.
Because there are those that have that desperate, needy energy, which we've all been there. I've absolutely been there. Yeah. Where I'm looking outside of myself for something. And then there are the women who have been deeply wounded and their hearts are closed and they're like, I've been abused, I've been hurt, I've been betrayed. And so it's not safe to go there. Yeah. And there's stories of judgment and shame and betrayal and all of that. And I'm looking forward to creating such an intentional, safe environment where those wounds can be really like loved on. And those who have big walls up can start to soften, because that is like the beautiful feminine that comes in to soften us, especially our like hardened parts that as independent women, especially overly independent, where we've learned how to be hyper masculine and be like, I've got to protect myself. A lot of us are walking around in the world with our hearts just closed, bitter AF, and judgmental of other women because maybe they're not as, it's just like, wait till you grow up, wait till you become an adult. And it's like, there's almost this idea that as we get older, like
we have to harden,
and that our playfulness and our joy and our radiance and our pleasure and our sexuality all just goes out the window. And that's why we like all want to stay young forever. And we want to like continue to, how young can I look? And that's why we think, oh, well, men only want the young girls. But what if that, we could completely shift that paradigm to it's like, I'm a fine wine, baby.
Which it's funny because like, I feel culturally, like you said, I feel like there is this shift. I think it's happening. Like one of my best friends of a decade, we've been through everything together. We talk about it. We're in our 30s and we've never been hornier. But
same.
It's like, and it's so different because in the 20s, it's like you're horny, but it's not for your pleasure. It's like,
no, it's for approval and
and
it's
validation.
To be picked.
And it's like chosen. In your 30s, it's like, I'm horny for what I want. Yes. And like, I don't give a shit. I was joking with one of our guy friends last night. I said something and he was like, well, you're very blunt. And I was like, I don't have time to not be honest anymore. I did that in my 20s. I'm just going to be straightforward now. And it's like, as you do that, there's this radiance, like I'm in my 30s and I feel more playful, more free, hornier than I ever did in my 20s. Yep. And I'm not even in my 20s. I was drunk and high all the time. Yeah. Now I'm sober, getting to experience this to such heights. And I think that that's this cultural narrative that's getting to shift. Totally. And it's like, there's such beauty also in aging gracefully with just love. The more you love yourself, the more beautiful you are to everybody, regardless of your outward appearance. I've met people that culturally someone might not even give a second glance to, who I've deeply fallen in love with, who I'm just like, oh my God, like I would follow you to the ends of the earth. You are such a beautiful human. And I think that that's that radiance from within. Absolutely. That we all get to cultivate and tap into. And the fact that this show is all about helping you build a life that feels as good as it looks. It's like, you can have all the things on the outside that look really good. That does not mean you're having you feel connected to yourself, to your body, to your partner, to your pleasure, to your play, to your work, to your purpose, and this is the call to women who are ready to step out of doing things for look's sake and are really ready to feel as deep
and as good as it can get.
Yeah.
And this is going to be the beginning. So I want to give you guys an idea of what's to come in this program and kind of some of the foundational things that we're going to be exploring together. In month 1, it's all going to be focused on the foundations of self-awareness and connection. So this is really important, because we're going to be really creating the safe container around expectations, why we're here, and looking at our awareness around our conditioning and our societal programming, beliefs around pleasure, desire, eros, kind of even gender roles, gender norms. What does it mean to be a woman? Let's ask that question. Let's have an open conversation and dialogue. Because I don't know how many women are talking to their therapists about this shit. Like maybe, but like I want to get intentional women together to have these conversations. We're also going to be talking about reconnecting to your body. So tantric breathing, sensation discovery, body awareness, because you're only as powerful as you are connected to your body. And a lot of us are that was me. Yeah. I mean, that was me, and it's been a journey, continues to be. And then we're going to explore in week 4 of the first month, exploring your desires. What a girl wants,
what a girl needs, whatever makes you happy and sets you free.
Yeah. Yes.
We're not starting a girl band, by the way.
I mean,
maybe.
Never say never. So that's month 1. Month 2 is really focused on releasing all of the baggage that we carry. So the shame, the guilt, the fear, all the stories, and there will be a focus on forgiveness and letting go. This is for those of us, which is all of us.
Yeah.
All of us have wounds, have parts that think we're not good enough, thinks that, have all different types of belief systems that don't serve and keep us in, shame and fear and inadequacy, limitation, scarcity, and living closed. And so that month is really about deconstructing that and releasing what doesn't serve us so that we can start to explore and follow our curiosity and open to the playfulness that the radiance that wants to come through us, but can't when we have the door. It's like the light can't shine when you got the windows closed and the blinds are closed. So we're going to dust them off, open them up.
Air out the room a little.
And then, let the sun shine through. Yeah. Month 4, we're going to be talking about cultivating embodiment, intuition, and intimacy. So we're going to be going deep into the art of embodiment, which you are so profoundly gifted at. Sensuality. What is Tantra? So Tantra 101, kind of an introduction to that. We're going to be exploring throughout this program in general. Even talking about things like erogenous zones, how to turn yourself on, connecting to your womb, the importance of that, and your intuition. Like, anything you want to say on those things?
Yeah, I think one, it's like with the erogenous zones and turning yourself on, oftentimes what I found is we have a limitation of the capacity of pleasure we hold in our body. So it's kind of the thermostat analogy that I'm sure you've shared on the podcast, and many of you have heard before around like our comfort zone. So the thermostat sets somewhere. So with our pleasure, it's quite the same. Oftentimes we're comfortable with a certain amount of pleasure. And then if we go beyond that, all of a sudden we shut down. We're like, no, I must suffer now. Let's suffer somehow. And so with this, it's really getting to expand that capacity for the pleasure. And what I love about it being in the same month as the womb work is, in order to expand capacity to hold, one of the best ways as a woman is to root into your womb. And if you can live from that womb space, your deep desires that live there, which are oftentimes when we repress the most, we shame the most, our intuition, there's so much alive. Literally, it's creative force. Yeah. We birth children from this space. It is the place of birth and creation. And so when we can expand into there, expand pleasure and expand our capacity to hold it, we get to show up and move through the world vastly different. Like our whole embodied experience changes. And so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, that's going to be so good. Yeah. And we end that month talking about intimacy with self and exploring erotic blueprints. Can you give people an idea of what that is?
Oh, Jaya. Thank you, Jaya. So many of you have probably heard of your love languages. The erotic blueprints were created by Jaya, and it is essentially the love languages, but for your sexuality. Yes. And there's different archetypes, just like there is in love languages. And what I have found personally was once I discovered my erotic blueprint, if I noticed I was having disconnect with my sexuality or a partner, I could tap back into the knowledge of the blueprint and be like, okay, because there's shadow aspects of each one, just like there would be with a love language. And I'd be like, okay, what part of the shadow is alive right now? And what can I do to adjust this so I can come back to connection with my own pleasure, with my partner, whatever's happening here. And it really, I felt, gave me this permission and deeper understanding, and also other people.
Totally.
I've had partners where I'm just like, why, like, I have so much love. Why is there not this erotic connection? And when we look at our blueprints, oftentimes it's just, we're not meeting each other's blueprints. And so it's like, oh, okay, this is, it's just this. It's not some philosophical quandary I need to discover.
Right.
We're just not compatible erotically.
Yep.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's a really empowering tool to better understand your own sexuality, as well as when you're meeting other people and their sexuality.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's nothing more empowering than knowing yourself. And that is what this whole program is about, is coming into a deeper level of intimacy with yourself, and thus as a byproduct with your body, with life, with your partner, with your work. Every other aspect of your life is going to be so much more vibrant and alive because you have gone into the depths with yourself. You know what you like, what you don't like, where your triggers are, where your shame lies, what the stories are that you hold, and how to move through that, because we're going to give you support around that and these other aspects of yourself. We're also going to be discussing consent, which is a huge topic that you have a beautiful way of sharing. We've shared a little bit about the art of consent and the wheel of consent on this show before. We're going to be diving into that more and practicing that as a pathway to more liberation. And then we're going to be ending the program talking about the medicine wheel, light and dark body, which we'll get into, owning your desires, your voice, really just living in a celebration of your authentic self and your expression in the world. And it's going to be juicy as fuck.
So juicy.
Yeah.
We're both so turned on and excited by this already.
I can't wait.
Like on the back end, her and I both like.
I can't wait. I have been waiting for the day I feel this excited about something again. And as you lit a spark in me when I met you, and then I've been following that, and we've been fanning that together. And I know we've done it for each other, in different ways. And as soon as I had my de-armoring session with you, and just over the course of so many conversations, I was like, women need this. Men need this too. That's a different program.
Yeah, that's a whole other program.
That's a different program. But women, one of the greatest compliments I get, and I know you get this too, is like, Tori, you're so inspiring, and you're so powerful, and you're so confident, and you're so well spoken, and you just like, you're direct, and you go for what you want. And that just like is powerful. And I, baby, don't have anything you don't have, but I have done some work to,
and you continue to
clean out the closet, if you will, of all the shit that kept me feeling insecure about myself. Yeah. And so much of my relationship to my body, not even sexually, but I had a very just harmonious, unhealthy relationship with my body for years and years and years. And only in the past 3 or 4 years have I stepped into a new profound level of acknowledgement and love and self-sourcing and praise. And I'm excited for women to get to experience that too.
And one of the things I'd add to what you just said there that I think you can attest to as well, it's like when you shift that relationship, when you start living in harmony, because culturally we're taught as women to, it's capitalistic consumerism society, so that our bodies are never enough. We need to be thinner, we need to be tighter, we need to be smaller, we need to, whatever the story is. And since you've had that shift, there's when you shift that and you live in that, the world reacts differently to you.
Yep.
The way that people show up, and it's not that you actually changed your physical appearance in any way. It's the embodiment. It's that vibration that you're giving off. It impacts now the people around you in a different way. And to me, that's why this program even is so important. It's like, yes, you and I are doing the work and we're embodiments of this. And now how much more profound is it if we now initiate 40 women in a program to go out and be that embodiment themselves? Because now who are you going to go initiate with your embodiment? And if you have daughters, just, I just got chills. Like, just imagine.
Please do it for your, if not for you, do it for your daughters and your kids.
Like, and even if you have sons, imagine the difference a man would have if he grew up seeing his mother deeply embodied in her self-love.
Grounded in herself.
Yeah, in her own passion, her own pleasure, this knowing of who she is and her heart that she brings to the world. Yep. And I think that's one of the gifts as the feminine is when we can move from that grounded, open-hearted place. That's why the feminine is often the muse. You know, we inspire art. We inspire the world to change when we're in that radiance, when we're in our truth. And I think I want to be clear. That doesn't mean it's always going to be like, I know Tori and I are beautiful right now here. And we're like, oh, look at us. We're so grand and beautiful.
You didn't see me this morning.
But yeah, that's what I'm getting to. It's like the feminine has range.
Totally.
So when I say you're grounded and rooted, there's also an aspect of the feminine that is like societally disgusting. Me this morning even. Yeah, I do my movement practice every morning, and this morning I was like troll troll vibes. I do great goblins. Yeah. And so I think that there's this holistic approach in remembering that I think when you hear people like us maybe speak of this, especially because of course, we make ourselves look nice to be on camera for content, but like the holistic side is embracing our darkness, our animal, our messiness. Like one of the things I love about Tori, and I've shared this with her, is as my sister and my friend, I know that there's nothing that I can't bring her. And if there's ever a moment that my animal or I make a mess or whatever, because I know she's rooted in herself, I also trust that she can have a conversation with me and clear that up. And because I'm comfortable with my animal, I'm comfortable if we make a mess of it together.
Right.
And that's that beauty.
You don't have to hide it.
Yeah. And that's the different culture, the different paradigm that I think we're ushering and calling forth in 2025, in these years to come, is being able to be in intimacy, communication, communion with others from this place. Yep. Very holistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you don't get to loving yourself without loving the parts of yourself that you don't like.
Yeah. It's true.
That aren't pretty, that are messy, that are, have the scars to prove it, but that's what makes us full spectrum, beautiful, complex, deep. That's why men love us. That's why I love women. Like they're so
such a gift.
Yeah.
Well, I think that once you own it too, and you can love those parts of you, the distinction is we all have them. So when you are in avoidance, dismissal, rejection of those parts, that's when we unconsciously hurt or harm those around us, because now it's leaking, it's messy. Like I love beautiful people. I love beautiful places. I love beautiful things. So I've always surrounded myself with them. Yeah. And I have known some of the most successful financial people that are absolutely gorgeous, drop dead, like Kardashian looking people, just freaking gorgeous all the time. They always look like that. I never understood it. I've lived with them even. I'm like, how do you always look like this? And what I noticed with those people, there was such an avoidance of their depth, of their womb, of their longing, of their humanity. And what would happen is unconsciously they would isolate or control others or push people away. And it was just out of this fear of being seen in their own human, in their own mess.
Well, it just perpetuates the idea of perfectionism. Yeah. That as women, in order to be loved and approved of and wanted and desirable, you have to be perfect. And it's just a lie.
Also, like, that sounds exhausting. I don't want to be loved. It is
exhausting. I lived that way for a really long time. And you become a shell of a person because you're so hyper vigilant. Like you're working so hard to promote an image.
Yeah.
And that's why I started my spiritual journey and my personal awakening was like, I was a shell. The shell looked good. The inside was hollow and empty and longing and hungry for a connection that I didn't at the time know how to fill that void. And what I found is it's this work. It is this work. It is more filling it with myself.
Yes.
Filling it with more of who I am. And that is what this program is about. That's what the next 6 weeks on the show are going to be about. So whether you decide to join us in the program or not, you're going to get all the tea, a lot of the tea. And we're going to be having some juicy conversations. So make sure you subscribe to this show. Follow us on Instagram. What's your Instagram? At Avery?
At Avery May, MAIE.
Okay. Yeah. We'll put that in the show notes. You're going to be seeing her so much more, which I'm so excited about. And this is just the beginning of a new WomanISHer series, all about how we're reclaiming the feminine, our embodiment, our eroticism, our expression. This is where you're going to get those conversations. So make sure you come back next Wednesday. We'll see you next week on the Coachable Podcast. See ya.